I've got two identically looking Legion laptops. More specifically, these are the Legion 5Is. They share the same chassis, they share the same GPU, even the memory configuration is the same. So you might be asking yourselves, what could be different? Well, it's the CPU, but here's where it gets really interesting. They're unique in their own ways, and they're from Intel. And what's really interesting is that the performance of those chips are completely different depending on the type of work that you're doing. And I want to thank Lenovo Legion and Intel for partnering with us in this video, because at the end of the day, this isn't just an apples to apples comparison. It's not about which one wins, but it's more along the lines of which processor or which architecture platform works best for you. So here's what we're working with. On the left-hand side, we have the Legion 5i with Intel's Core Ultra 9 290HX Plus processor. That's Arrow Lake HX Plus. On the right-hand side, we have the Legion 5i with the Intel Core Ultra 9 386H. That's Panther Lake. Now, if you've ever looked at Intel's CPU name and felt like you needed a decoder ring, you're not wrong. But let's make some sense of Intel's lineup right now. Basically, newer processors with a bigger number in their name aren't necessarily meant to beat older ones in every way. Let me explain. The Core Ultra 3 series uses Intel's newest Panther Lake architecture, which focuses on balancing performance, efficiency, and in some cases, it's paired to a really good integrated GPU with Xe3 graphics. It tops out at 16 cores for the Ultra 9 386H, which we have over here, and the maximum wattage is around 58 watts. It also features Intel's LPE cores on top of the standard performance and efficiency cores, which is designed to run everyday tasks a little bit more efficiently. Meanwhile, if we switch over to the processors with the Core Ultra 2 series, they fall into Intel's higher-end Arrow Lake family. Now, by higher-end, I mean they're designed to generally work at higher power levels than the Core Ultra 3 series CPUs, while offering up to 24 cores. Now, to add a bit more confusion, the Plus designation in the flagship Core Ultra 9 290HX Plus, I know that's a mouthful, but it means that it's part of Intel's Arrow Lake refresh family, which is a series of processors with a bunch of built-in enhancements. You can check out our deep dive of the desktop CPUs right over here. Now, the question that you might be asking yourselves is, how does that translate into real-world use? Well, why don't we take a look at some performance numbers? So, as you can see, the gaps are huge. In Blender, Houdini, Handbrake, and Lightroom that are CPU taxed, Arrow Lake HX is almost 30 to 37% faster than Panther Lake. And the performance gap comes down to the basics, right? I mean, the Arrow Lake chip features 24 cores and is drawing close to 83 watts under full load in its performance setting, while Panther Lake, on the other hand, tops out at 16 cores and it's limited to 58 watts in the exact same chassis. Now, how does that translate into temperatures and noise levels? Well, because they both share the same cooling system, the Panther Lake chip does end up running a bit cooler and quieter in the performance mode compared to Arrow Lake HX Plus. The only exception is, for some reason, balanced and quiet modes on Panther Lake, where running a bit more toastier compared to the 290HX Plus in the Legion 5i. Now, if we flip over to GPU accelerated workloads, Premiere is about 6% faster on the 290HX Plus. When you look at DaVinci Resolve Studio, it's around 5% ahead. Blender and Handbrake are both within 6%. So the difference in performance is not all that significant since both laptops share the same RTX 5060 laptop GPU. And all of that core count and power advantage on the CPU side don't make much of a difference over here. You can also see that with the temperatures and power levels of these GPUs. Legion is pumping the same amount of power on both chassis. So the question that I'm pretty sure that most of you are asking is, how do these CPUs perform in gaming? Well, that's the part that surprised me the most, because at 1600p across 14 games that we tested, they're both essentially identical. If we examine them closely, they may be 2 to 3% apart, but you really can notice that difference in real time. Now, there are some games like Counter-Strike 2, which significantly favors the Arrow Lake HX Plus platform because it's about 46% ahead of Panther Lake. CS2 is a single-thread focused title, and Arrow Lake's higher single-core frequency plus more cache is what contributes to these insanely fast frame rates. Now, there are some titles like Indiana Jones and Marvel Rivals that favor Panther Lake, but overall, I think the pattern is pretty clear. Once the RTX 5060 is doing the heavy lifting in graphically demanding titles, the CPU advantage of the 290HX Plus kind of disappears. More cores and more watts only matter when you're playing games that are highly competitive, and also if you're just looking for that raw CPU performance in real-world applications, obviously Arrow Lake HX is the better call. But there is one major advantage of Panther Lake that makes it a more compelling option over Arrow Lake HX Plus, at least for those gamers who also want to use their laptops for other things on the go. And that's battery life. You see, both these chassis feature 80-watt battery cells, and yet the Legion 5i with the Core Ultra 9 386H lasts about 23% longer in our standard Chrome web browsing test. And if we switch over to our 4K YouTube playback test, that gap gets even longer by about 38%. And even if you game on battery, Panther Lake takes the lead once again. That's fundamentally a different laptop experience on identical hardware. Because remember, this is Intel's most advanced manufacturing node ever shipped to consumers. It not only delivers solid performance in real-world applications, but it also does so by being power efficient. Now, from a physical standpoint, both these chassis share the same design DNA. Legion is known for their simple, stealthy chassis, and you get the signature Legion logo engraved right in the middle. It is not RGB lit, which is completely fine because this thing is very clean, it's understated, and the overall package doesn't scream gamery. You can easily rock this thing in a cafe setting, or even bring it to a lecture hall or a business meeting, and it would just blend in no problem. Now, on the color side, this is actually one of the first spec differences between these two models. The Arrow Lake HX Plus version comes in both Glacier White and the Eclipse Black model, whereas the Panther Lake version only comes in Eclipse Black. And if you do choose to go with that option, well, I just have to say that this thing just picks up a lot of fingerprints, so you certainly need to keep a microfiber cloth handy to occasionally keep it clean. Now, this year's Glacier White Legion 5i also debuts a new coating. It's fingerprint resistant, it's smooth to the touch, and it actually improves durability. This is the first Legion 5i that has received this coating. Also keep in mind that in some regions, Legion will offer both Arrow Lake and Panther Lake models available in parallel, but in North America, it'll only be the Arrow Lake option. Now, build quality is what you'd expect at this price point. You get an aluminum top panel along with ABS plastic chassis at the bottom. The bezels around the display are also plastic, but overall this thing is put together pretty well. You can also tilt the laptop screens all the way up to 180 degrees flat. The interior space looks pretty much the same in terms of layout compared to every other Legion laptop that I've tested. You get a full-size keyboard with the numpad and full-size arrow keys, which is certainly a nice touch. They also feature 1.6 millimeters of key travel, and the caps are also recessed by 0.3 millimeters. I do like the fact that there's no wobble or any play with these switches, which is great. And the keys, they offer really good tactile feedback. Legion has consistently had some of the best keyboards on gaming laptops, and this one just continues that tradition. The trackpad, on the other hand, it uses a Mylar surface. It's smooth enough for everyday use. It gets a job done. I wouldn't say it's the best out there, especially when you compare to some of the haptic integrations that we were seeing with, some of the new Windows laptops. But obviously that also is reflected in the pricing for these laptops. The port setup is actually a strong point for the 5i despite its relatively thin profile. So on both chassis, because they're the same, you get 3 full-size Type A ports, 2 USB 4 Type-C ports. One of them supports Thunderbolt 4. You also get HDMI 2.1, a headphone jack, and a built-in RJ45 Ethernet jack. Most of them are positioned at the back for easier cable management, but there is one thing worth noting, and this is where the two models actually differ in your favor depending on which one you pick. The Panther Lake model upgrades all 3 USB Type-A ports to 3.2 Gen 2 at 10 gigabits per second, whereas the Arrow Lake HX model is still stuck at Gen 1 at 5 gigabits per second. There's also a difference in storage configurations, so the Legion 5i with the 290HX Plus comes with a Gen 5 SSD, and the speeds are borderline absurd. I mean, it's close to 10 gigabits per second on read and write performance, whereas the Panther Lake model runs on a Gen 4 drive and the speeds are around 7 gigabytes per second on read and 5.8 gigabytes per second on write. It's still plenty fast, but let's say you're deciding to use these laptops for, content creation, where you're dealing with high resolution assets, or even just managing your game library, you'll certainly notice that difference. The displays on both these laptops are identical. You get a 15.3-inch 1600p OLED panel with a 16:10 aspect ratio. So you're getting rich, vibrant colors with those deep, inky blacks, and it also covers 100% DCI-P3 coverage. and you get solid color accuracy straight out of the box. But most importantly, they also get pretty bright in SDR. We're talking around 500 nits on both models, but they're also glossy and they don't have any surface treatments to avoid reflections. But past that, they do get the job done for both productivity-focused tasks as well as gaming. Now, about upgradability. Both laptops give you access to 2 memory slots. You also get 2 M.2 slots, so expansion is certainly a big plus. On the Alder Lake HX Plus unit, one of the M.2 slots is Gen 5, as I mentioned earlier, but then the other one is capped at Gen 4, whereas on Panther Lake, both those slots are Gen 4. Now, there is one trade-off on the memory side. Because both laptops use the standard SODIMM modules, it comes at a cost of speed. Take the same Panther Lake 386 chip in something like the Yoga Pro 9i, where the Panther Lake is paired to a solid LPDDR5X memory running at up to 8,533 megatransfers per second. You can't get that speed in a SODIMM configuration. It's just not available in that form factor. So you're giving up some raw memory bandwidth in exchange for the ability to actually upgrade your RAM yourself later down the road. And for a lot of people, that flexibility is worth more than the extra speed. So to sum it up, Alder Lake HX Plus is designed for the user who only cares about raw CPU performance, plus there's the added benefit of Gen 5 storage. Just know that performance comes with a trade-off, and that is power efficiency. Panther Lake is for everyone else, at least in my opinion, because it not only gives you better battery life by a significant margin, it also runs cooler, it's quieter, and it's built on Intel's most advanced architecture, and we've seen that with the battery results. You also get the faster USB Type-A ports, which is a nice bonus too. For gaming, I feel like both laptops deliver the same experience in every title once the RTX 5060 takes over. So I would say pick the CPU that fits your workflow. But I want to pose a question to you guys. If you were presented with 2 laptops, exact same hardware, except the differences were just a chip, where one of them is more performance-driven, has more cores, a lot of power being pumped into it, whereas the other one is a little bit more power efficient. From the results you've seen, both in real-world apps and gaming, and of course battery life, which one would you pick? Drop it in the comments down below. I'm Ibo with Hardware Canucks. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Spend responsibly.